The title is Impact Hoof Health by Looking Through a Magnifying Glass. So we're going to look at it a little bit closer with some data. We're also going to look at it with some real facts, okay, out there. So, there we go. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get to good data. We have to have the right information. And what we've done over the last few years, we simplified, as an example, with the claw lesion recording. We know that a toe ulcer is always in the red zone, okay? A sole ulcer would be here on the back outside claws. The front, it can be either way. And then the white lines, generally the normal white lines, typical white lines. So between the sole ulcer and this and digital dermatitis, that's 95% of all the problems around the world. So it's mainly three problems. Normally, there's some other odd ones, but those are the major. Those are the 90 percenters. Okay, so collecting the right data. Today we do it. There we go. It doesn't want to. There it goes. Today we do it like with tablets, okay? A new program that's now an app that's in the cloud, uploads in the cloud, and you can put the information in. You got the cow information, you got when she calved, lactation, and then you have this, and off and on you can put the lesion in, the severity of the lesion, your treatment. But really, we're much more concerned we get the right lesion, because for all of us, may it be in the ventilation business, may it be in the nutrition business, consulting business, when we have a lesion, okay, we can figure out what the origin of the problem is. So here, this is the report out of that. This is over the last year. The cows we trimmed at this particular dairy, you know. Orange are trims, yellow are rechecks, and the blue ones are lame ones. So the blue ones are cows that come in lame that the farmer picked out as lame. If I find them lame as trimming, they go in a different category, okay? But this farm does an awesome job collecting lame cows. And we're running at about 5.5% to 6% total lameness with 43 liters of milk. So that's down here. We're right at 43 liters of milk per cow with 800 cows. Oh, okay. Then we can look at it on the lesions by days in milk. So, and basically, don't pay attention to this one. This is a special, but we have foot rot, we have white line abscesses, and these are sole fractures, the orange one. So foot rot is generally always in early lactation, and it's because of a weak immune system. Cows can't fight. Sometimes the weak immune system after calving can't fight the disease off. So we're using this data. Let's see here. Okay, here you can see, this is another graph, digital dermatitis. And in this case, if you looked at before, digital dermatitis has 5 stages. So when I do record it, I record all 5 stages. When I look at the acute stages, there's only 2 or 3 cows. These are all my older cows. So we're trimming about, you can see this is almost 2 years worth of data. Okay, we trimmed mid-lactation about over 1,000 cows. We trimmed end lactation about 1,000 cows. Okay, and the in-between ones are, you know, maybe here they were a little early, but a lot of those, the goal is to not have a lot of lame cows in this early stage of lactation, you know, especially the first 100 days. And which, this is not a lameness, they're not in here because of lameness. These are just, when they go in the trim chute for something else, you record the digital dermatitis or the rotation. Okay, so now, overcoming thin soles and toe ulcers, okay? And basically we said before, anything that's in the toe, you know, is generally a toe ulcer. So if it's from here on forward, The anatomy is a little bit different there, so look at here what I got. That's the bone inside of the toe. So a toe ulcer would always be here way in the front, 1/3. And generally the cause of this, a lot of times today on the big dairies, too much wear. Even on the grazing dairies, the further they have to walk, the thinner the soles become, because again, the growth per month is about 5 millimeters, 3/16 of an inch, okay? And if you have more wear, like eventually it's like a flat tire, you know, eventually you get a flat tire. And that's a problem on a lot of the big farms, you know, that like we work on sometimes. So, and then the other thing is when we over trim, and I'll show a video afterwards. So generally, like at that 800 cow dairy where we're at, I think we had 3 toe ulcers last year on 800 cows. But it's really, you really have to pay attention what you do with the trimming. The larger the farm becomes. It's so easy to do too much, yeah? And people, when they get a cow in a trim chute, they think they have to do something, and sometimes there isn't anything to do. You know, that's the thing to understand. And you can see here on this one, see how soft that sole is? And even there, it's completely, so this completely wore out, you know? And we have to solve these type of issue from a management end of it. So this is where we will put rubber down, right? You know, this may be, there's various things in this that we have to look at. So when we look at the problem list for thin soles, we have too much wear. I put down heat stress, okay? Because I'll come back to that a little bit. Because heat stress results in excessive standing, right? We know that. We heard that with Nigel Cook this morning. New concrete floors. One of the things is with building barns sometimes is that the contractors, well, it's only for cows. Why do we have to do a good job? Right? So, I mean, you and I have seen that, right? We get it done quickly but the job isn't done well. And then you have, you know, abrasive, sharp sand part, long walking distance, and again, the over trimming. So, one of the things here is, and I'll come back to this. So the underlying cause is inflammation. So this is a healthy foot. This is an inflamed foot. And one of the things, you guys, I'm going to go back here one more time. When you guys look at the fingernail now, see what happens down here when you put pressure on it, right? That demonstrates the blood flow to a hoof when a cow is standing. So the longer she's standing, the more restricted the blood flow is. And that's why we'll see at the data afterwards, at the end of the summer, lameness goes up, toe ulcers go up, other lameness goes up. And it all has to do with that extra inflammation, because when she lays down normally, the normal blood flow, we get those 12 hours of laying down time, we get healthy enough blood flow that it takes care of the inflammation. But as soon as that 12 hours goes down to 10 hours, 9 hours, 8 hours in some cases, and we got good data to show that that's when the lameness set in. So look, for me, this is a prime example, yeah? No fans, there's fans there, but no fan on the outside, okay? This I know was a heat stress case. I mean, it's a small farm, but it doesn't matter. It's the same on the big farm. And what you have, when you have to think about is when they stand, right? Blood flow is restricted. The longer they stand, you know, the worse it becomes. And look at here, when you look at data. So you look at here, October, we go almost into December, then it goes down. Look at in April, virtually no thin soles. These are the thin soles. There's virtually no thin soles in April. This is a larger dairy. Look at what happens in July. August, more standing. And it goes up. Generally in June, you hardly ever see thin soles. They start in early July. They're always the worst, like the first week of September. Look at it, late August, first week of September. And then it starts going down again, because then they start, cools off, they lay down more again, and it goes down. And then the other thing while we're on here is an example. this particular farm doing an awesome job with sole ulcers. You can see here for the size dairy, again a little bit more at the end of the summer, September and October. Lameness always happens 2 months past the hottest day of the year, or the hottest period. You can almost go by it. We got good data that shows it, okay? So, and then the other thing is, and we talked about that, the first day is the white line lesion in this graph, shows it nicely. See, very little white line lesions in April and May, and then as you go into the fall, it goes up and then it goes back down again. So with the toe ulcers, one of the things, this is a prime example. The sole wore out, and now we have everything exposed. And the thing is, when we catch them early enough and do something about it, we can actually do something. But if the infection goes into the bone, we generally we have long recoveries, really long recoveries, okay? And again, this is that other one I showed. And in some cases, like here, if I would push here, that would be like my skin here. That's how soft it is. And it's just because sometimes you don't pay attention to it. You know, that's where we have to do the preventative end of it, like putting rubber down, maybe try to, maybe in the heat of the summer, maybe we don't bring all the cows in the holding pen all at once because they're standing in there too long because of the heat. You know, we split the groups, especially on bigger farms, because the longer they stand in there, you know, the more they heat up, and then it takes more to cool them down again, like we learned this morning. So the other thing is, this is the type of floors that I run into around the world. And like here, I was at this particular dairy, they didn't have to do any trimming. The trimming was done naturally, you know, and they wondered why they had thin soles. But the guys would still trim them, and they had a lot of lame cows just because of trimming. And like here, this is very common of poor concrete work, okay? When the contractors don't finish the concrete well, everything has to go fast. They go too fast, and maybe it has to do with the slump. So when it's too dry or too wet, all of those have a factor. We have information on that on the Dairyland Initiative. And then here, you know, again, the same thing. This is a brand new floor somebody put in. They thought, well, it looked really aggressive, it looked really good. Yeah, it just was like a meat grinder. I mean, those cows didn't have soles on them in almost no time, okay? And then here, this was a big farm, Sue, where you were over at Greenfield, Breezeways, where they poured them out in the hot summer, and they just after 2 years, it was really bad, you know? A lot of problems. They actually put rubber strip down, and the cows wouldn't even walk on that, you know? So, what do we do? See, that's again the same thing. We got these. This is over trimming, and what I'm going to show you guys now is quick video. See, and it's a video of a very, very. When you see white feet trimming, it's always too much. It's kind of like cutting your fingernails back until they bleed. Okay, that's kind of the same thing, you know. And this particular dairy had a lot of lame cows, and there was just not necessarily just only thin soles, but other problems as well, because it was just not done correctly. So what we need to do is we need to have good cow comfort, right? We said standing. Look at here, fans over the beds, right? This is a cross vent here. This place expanded by 2,000 cows into a new facility. We had 5 thin soles into a new facility, because what they did is everything was poured flat and they cut the grooves in afterwards, because he didn't trust the contractors to do the job right. But at the end, and I know a lot of farms that expanded, moved in a new facility, and the first thing they had was a lot of thin soles because the concrete was too rough, you know? And laying down, see this in the heat of the summer, you know, that's what I want to see here. You know, I think Nigel showed this picture as well this morning, like here. We get the laying down time. And when we get the laying down time, we don't see those graphs with the, you know, with that. So, and the floor pattern again, this is kind of what we promote today, the deep groove. So 1/2 inch deep, 2.5 inches from here to here, and then 3/4 of an inch wide. And it's been proven and now on a lot of the new dairies that this really works nice.
So you're good with cutting grooves?
Huh?
You're okay with cutting grooves?
I'm better with cutting grooves than sometimes doing it with the float, because if you don't have the right contractor, they're in a hurry or it's a hard job, and sometimes not the right guy is doing the float work. We've done now, well, this is a 3,000 cow dairy that expanded. Everything has been cut in, poured it flat, and it shows it afterwards. The total dairy is 7,500 cows. I think 2 years ago we had 57 white line lesions on the whole dairy. You know, so if I would do it new again, much more precision. And what you do is when you cut them in, you get the sharp edges, and you get less wear. You know, sometimes it's almost with saying the cows get too overconfident in some points. It's so secure for them. So. Next thing I was going to talk a little bit is quickly sole ulcers, okay? And one of the things, so the sole ulcer, the toe ulcer, we said it's here. The sole ulcer always happens right here, right underneath here, okay? So in the back, so this is a very early one, early detected. This cow probably didn't even hardly show lameness, okay? If we would have looked probably at milk production, it would have probably dropped down a little bit over the last 3-4 weeks, just because he had a little extra pain. So basically, but one of the things to understand is that sole ulcers, this was a good study done in 2013. If the first lactation animal doesn't have lesions, in the second lactation, about 12% will get it. If the first lactation animal has lesion, almost 4 times as many second lactation animals will get sole ulcers. So prevention is a huge thing with the sole ulcer, and we know today how we can prevent them by just a good trimming, okay? Even like in some cases trimming the heifers before first calving, especially if they're raised in confinement. If they're raised out in dry lots, pasture, probably we only have to look at the long-toed ones, but if they're raised in confinement, I trim 100%, because I have a better foot afterwards, a better feed and lick score, and better production in that first lactation. Probably by somewhere between, I'd say, 600 and 1,500 pounds in some herds, will we see the increase. Because I have farms today where I don't have sole ulcer in the first lactation, second lactation, third lactation, maybe occasionally third lactation one, and then it's fourth and fifth lactation. But the thing is, once they have it once, it's always going to recur again because the damage is done. And if we can prevent the first damage, that's the key, okay? So, problem list, poor cow comfort, milking time, heat, stress, hoof trimming. So, and we saw that before, I'm going to go through that. So, what happens with a sole ulcer is that the abnormal growth or the standing causes pressure between the bone and the sole. And it's kind of like a bruise, okay? Eventually, the quick can no longer produce healthy horn, and it starts to get more inflammation. And within time, then it doesn't produce healthy horn, and then we almost get a prolapse of the quick inside. That's what a sole ulcer is. And I'll show you later what we do when we trim them. So again, when I see a lot of standing in normal farms like this is in the UK. I have another picture that I use somewhere else in Europe. A lot of sole ulcers at the end of the summer, like from August through middle of October. And it's because you can see here, so there's some ventilation work to do in there, right? So, and this is what happens here exactly. This is an early one, an early sole ulcer, but today to cure sole ulcers, we always need to block them. Need to elevate, take the pressure off, so there is no pressure, so the inflammation can go down and can produce healthy horn. Once we have it, the key is to prevent them and try to prevent them as much as we can with foot trimming, and we're doing much better today than what we did 20 years ago when I first, in my early career. Today I got farms with less than 1% sole ulcers. You know, it can be done, you know. But the other thing is now, look at, this was from a friend of mine in Japan, Total Herd Management in Hokkaido. They took 30 farms, 4,000 cows, and they plugged them into Dairy Comp 305. And what it shows here is, this is the soil ulcers, okay? And this shows it by date. And what you can see here is, the blue one is the low temperature, okay? And the red one is the high temperature. So it's a temperature here. So this is 25 degrees Celsius, see? Low was about 10, okay? So they're cooling down pretty well up there, but look at what happened to the soil ulcers, right? Again, we have them in September and October, because this is August. September and October, an increase in soil ulcers. And here, the next year again, September and October. And the other thing, interesting thing is when you look at it in days in milk, most of the soil ulcers either happened right at the beginning of the lactation. So that's probably cows that weren't taken care of prior to calving, because there's more stress, ligaments, all of those time at calving time. And then between 100 and 150 days in milk. So that's that period after calving, that's where you would see them, you know. So, but really a lot of data, and it just brings it home again that heat stress or summer heat, even though it only goes up to 25, plays a role. Oh. So, and this is a large dairy here. You can see the soil ulcers. August, September, October. Okay, so this is two different years, yeah. And then here again the white lines. But you can see here in the winter time, virtually no soil ulcers until the end of July. Again, goes back to that heat we're dealing with in the summer. And you know, 10 years ago it was not nearly as bad. But are you getting more milk today than you did 10 years ago? Right? Exactly. You know. So the heat stress. You know. The other thing is the milking times. It's from gate open to gate close. Years ago, we'd say, when Nigel Cook did this work in 2003, he said 3 hours are pretty good. I'm going to the Middle East, and you never see anybody milk 3 hours a day, right? So, 20 minutes in the parlor, and they're back out in the pen, you know, within a half hour. So if they milk 4 times a day, there's 2 hours out of the pen. And we've gotten way too relaxed here. We said, oh, well, you know, we can have these big group of cows, and, you know, it's okay for them to stand in a holding pen for an hour a day or a little bit more, you know. But at the end, it ends up with that extra lameness at the end of the summer, you know. So that's what we have. And for me, you know, except only 2003, today, I want to try to be below 2.5 hours. I got farms that in the summertime, when it's the hot days, they split the groups up in the parlor. Guess what? We have a flat curve. Because they're cooler out in the barn than what they are in the holding pen, you know. In the holding pen, when they're packed in there, it's hard. And you can see here, you know, farms that I work with, Sue works with, you know, and Nigel showed this slide this morning. So what happens is when the cow's body temperature gets up to 102, she automatically stands up if she's laying down. Okay? When she cools off, and it gets down to about 101.2, she lays back down. But it takes her twice as long to cool off than it takes her to heat up. Okay? So and that's one of the things we heard this morning. It's very important that we have that cooling at the head where they're laying down, so they actually stay cool. And some really nice work. Yeah? See here, as they heat up. And that's quite good. And then the other thing is, when we sit down or lay down, we produce about 250 BTUs of heat, 200 BTUs of heat, right? So a cow that produces 60 pounds or 27 pounds is like a hair dryer on low. Okay, one hair dryer on low. A cow that produces Come on. Oh. There we go. A cow that produces 80 pounds, a hair dryer on medium, okay? And then the cow that produces 100, oh, now it all of a sudden, let's go back here. A cow that produces 100 pounds of milk, a hair dryer on high. So imagine turning on, ladies, turning on like 100 hair dryers in a house on high, right? And that's what 100 cows are in a holding pen. Now you put 500 in there in a holding pen that produces 100 pounds of milk. No wonder it affects the high producing cows, right? And this is just a reality check. We never think about that. But I stood in the middle of the holding pen with 500 cows in there, even down in New Zealand on a nice 25-degree day, and I had to go out because I was sweating in the middle of the cows. And that was outside, you know? It was outside. So really important. And here you can see here the temperature humidity index, lesion rate over 5 years. So the black line is the temperature humidity index. This is all with the same dairy where we had data. And what's happening here is lameness is always delayed about 2 months. The peak of lameness past that hottest time of the year, okay? So this is, and we could duplicate that year after year. Now that we put a better barn in, we don't see it anymore. We see a very light peak, you know, at the end of the summer. Our typical lesions just don't happen, you know? So, and again here, the sole ulcers, I don't have to show that anymore, but the functional claw shape. So, functional claw shape is a cow cows are toe animals, okay? They need to stand up on their toes. They need to stand on toes with heels on it, because the part we learn about the foot is the strongest connection of this bone is in the toe area, way in the top front 1/3. So if they're in the toe, there's less weight in the back, so there is less trauma altogether, okay? And we do that, like, as an example, this is heifers coming off a pasture. And that's all I do. But it makes them, I don't have sole ulcers at all. Just very little. Sometimes if they're long enough, I only have to do this, okay? I only have to do this. And then this is a milk cow out of a freestall barn. Again, put them up on their toes. And these are the outside claws, because this is what we do there in the outside claws. We take the pressure off, the pressure off that causes those sole ulcers, and we put the weight on the wall. So the outside is the wall, and it's like a building. So if the weight is carried on the wall and on the toe, and the research proven us more and more of that then the cows are healthy. So key for performance indicators. It's easy, in my opinion, today to have sole ulcer rates below 2%. It's easy. If we do the trimming good, if we do a good job of cow comfort, cow cooling, having cows lay down, watch time budgets, very much possible. And then some of the other indicators here, lesion the first 60 days in milk should be less than 4%. Trim events before first 60 days as of fresh, less than 5%. So mainly for me, when I have trims in here, those are my older high maintenance cows that we keep going. You know, that keep making milk every year, and you get them up in shape, stand them up again, make them sure they go through the peak lactation without any problems. And sometimes it's just a quick checkup. You know, it's not a hoof trim always, it's just a checkup, you know. Oh, and then all cows with lesions per year, less than 10%. You know, if we look at digital clinical lesions, so clinical lesions that make pain. And get lame, stay lame, should be less than 2%. So the cows that we have to look at them all the time because they're lame again, there's a reason why they're lame again. Sometimes it's this guy right here because he doesn't do a good enough job. I've learned over the years, you know. I hate going back to the same cows and then you try new things or make sure the blocks stay on longer or all of those type of things, okay? So, finish up. Okay, when you have good cow comfort and you get this, that's 43 liters of milk throughout the summer with virtually no extra lameness. I mean, the lameness curve is just like that. 800 cows, we have about a lame cow every 2 weeks. I had a couple more the last couple of weeks, but that's the end of September. And that's some of my older cows, but you know. So with that, any questions?
So when you have fresh cows that have got foot ulcer or other issues, it would be fair to say, based on the fact that it takes 2 months, you got a 2-month lag, that would be heat stress when the cow is dry.
Oh yeah. So the question is, when you have a fresh cow that's lame, especially when you look at that curve, right? It was September, October, right? Would that be because the cow was under heat stress in July or August when she was dry? Guaranteed. We're learning that now. We gotta do a better job of getting those dry, because the dry cows are heavier already, right? Because they're carrying a calf. Now, if they don't lay down, because they're bigger, they're a little fatter sometimes, right? We actually have to do better work in there, I think, and where we do that, what I see is we're bringing that curve down, you know? So there's a lot, it's really from farm to farm different, but I think it's quite important to make sure. I see less issues on farms with sand because they don't get as hot on sand when they lay down, right, as they do in green solids. It's just, green solids is more of an insulator, but it's still good cow comfort. So I think we probably have to do a better job of cooling in there, you know, making sure those dry cows get to lay down, have that wind speed, you know. Anything else? Hey, thanks, then.
Do you trim differently from a cow barn with sand versus a barn with sawdust?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a barn with sawdust or green solids, you always have to take more off. Like when you go to this here. I mean, this is a dry cow trim on a sand barn, but it looks like I did a lot, but I don't really do a lot because I've got a lot of work. But if I be on sawdust, I'd probably take another half inch or 3/8 of an inch off. You know, you always have more length on those, just because, and you got to keep them up on their toes. You got to work keeping them up on their toes, just because if you don't keep them up on their toes because of the flooring, you lose more of the heel. You get more slipping, and if you get more up on their toes, so yeah, you have to be. And then if you have more rubber in there, you even do more trimming. You know, but the more rubber you have. For me, the question the other day was about rubber. I like rubber when we have a lot of wear, or 90-degree corners, or anytime we make 90-degree corners. Rubber is great. Afterwards, you make more money spending money on a good freestall and the cooling than you do on the rubber. Because people think, well, we have rubber along the feed pound, it's more comfortable for the cow to stand. Well, if the stalls aren't uncomfortable, what's going to happen? Standing, we're going to get sole ulcer, we're going to get lame cows. I want not to be comfortable for the cow to stay too comfortable. I want her to go and lay down. I want the freestall to be the most comfortable, because that's where she makes milk. That's where she ruminates, right? Goes back and eats again, you know. Rumination drives dry matter intake, you know. So a lot, we're learning now, even like with the new, with more green solids, you have a little bit more, you know. On the sand barn, sometimes we have too much. I know a lot of farms, we have too much wear. Sure. You know, you can't even, Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's all I can do. You know. But if I can, and you don't see, when the toes are short, you rarely see a lot of sole ulcers. It's just the toes get longer, because what you do is you're changing that angle. You don't have it on the toe anymore, so there's more pressure back here. Okay? Anything else? You're good? Okay, well, thanks everybody. It's my pleasure.